So Jaeger pilots turned into rock stars. Danger turned into propaganda. Kaijus into toys.
Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are taking a look at the NECA 2015 convention exclusive Pacific Rim mini figure set. This is the piece that I feel that out of all of NECA's releases for Comic-Con 2015 has gotten the least amount of love on social media. And it is kind of a weird pick. But there are definitely two things I am a complete sucker for when it comes to collecting: giant monster battles and prop replicas. And this checks both boxes. These are recreations of the action figures seen in the opening montage of Pacific Rim. And while granted they're on screen for a very brief amount of time, some of the Jaegers we've gotten toys of have been on screen for probably equal amounts of time. And I thought this was a great idea for a convention exclusive. We get 5 different figures here. From left to right we have the Kaiju Hardship, the Jaeger Romeo Blue, the Kaiju Karloff, the Jaeger Horizon Brave, and the Kaiju Trespasser. So let's take a closer look at each of these figures. So let's start with Trespasser, since it's one of the first figures we got in the main Pacific Rim line, and the very first Kaiju. Now I think it's kind of funny that you would memorialize something like this as a toy for kids. If you lived in a real world where this thing had come out of the ocean, killed a ton of people, and done millions and millions of dollars worth of damage. But it is a really cool little figure. I love the stylization of it. It just kind of has this grumpy look to his face. There's no paint on this at all. It's just yellow plastic, which is a bit lame, I guess, but it looks good overall. It looks like a kid's toy. The claws are done in this very stylized format where they kind of are balled up fists, but then have the claws detailed on there. We have the little claws up front and the weird little shelfy shell piece on the front of them. Feet, or as they should look, is a little club tail back there, the fin on the back, and of course the axe-shaped head. A simple little piece, but I really like it. Now these figures are pretty limited articulation. Trespasser here has cut joints at the shoulders, so they'll go forward and back, limited by these horns over the shoulders here. But I honestly wasn't expecting these to be articulated at all, so it really doesn't bug me that there's just 2 points. Next up we've got Horizon Brave, and Horizon Brave is much more detailed. We have a couple different colors of paint here. We have the brown body of the Jaeger. We've got some gray detailing for both the stickers on the side, the head itself, and the claws or the fingers on his hands. And then we do have the yellow bits for the 2 little cannons up here and the eyepiece. I think Horizon Brave works perfectly in this format. He's adorable as his little robot toy. Not a whole lot of sculpted detail, but what's there fits. It's a very crude caricature of the character, but it works for what it is. For articulation, he actually has a swivel at the waist as well as cut joints at the arms. The arms are on an angle so they can kind of come out, so it looks like he's about to hug a kaiju or something. So more articulation than a lot of the others in this box, but still pretty limited. But a very cute piece. Next up we've got Karloff, who we have not gotten in the main line yet, but I really hope we do because I think he's a really cool design, a very unique kaiju. He's got his big old head, probably his namesake, looking like the Karloff Frankenstein monster. Bart Simpson spikes up here at the top. Got little wings coming off the back and a little bit of a tail there. Some horns coming out of his shoulders. Spiky little details on his arms. The hands are really cute. They're kind of that stereotypical C-clip you'd see on a lot of figures like this. I think that works really well with the toy replica piece. He's got a cool little chin and his eyes there and a frowny face, and then more spikes coming down his legs. This actually I feel has more sculpted detail than a lot of the others, and I'm really happy to see that since we haven't gotten Karloff yet, and being such a unique body, it's probably going to be one that we're less likely to get anytime soon. Probably more when they've covered a lot of other figures for the line. So I think it's nice to at least have one representation of him in plastic and that they did detail him out pretty well. For articulation, Karloff swivels at the top of his shoulders, and his head will rotate side to side, which is kind of nice. Next up, we have Romeo Blue, and this is another simple one, just plain old purple in color, but he's got some great detail as well. Nice little boxy head and antenna, little knife here on the front, the fins on the back, little details all through his arms, panel lines and everything sculpted in there. Very blocky looking Jaeger, but very, very nice. His articulation is kind of funny. His arms come up at a very weird angle, once again giving it that hug look that Horizon Brave kind of shares, but there's nothing else, nothing in the torso, nothing in the head, so a pretty static little figure here. Last but not least, we have Hardship, and Hardship has a very different paint job than the others. He's not just one color, he's got the brownish red up here at the top, and then he goes down to a gray, but it's a fade of color as opposed to being painted detail. It's an interesting design, and I kind of like how they did this. It looks very cool. We do have some great detailing here at the head and mouth. He just looks very grumpy, as a kaiju should. He's got his big horn up here at the top. Similar backpack to what we've seen on Trespasser and Knifehead, but different detail. You can see it comes down a little further here. Got his short little tail there. His big clunky looking arms. The forearms very, very large with the big claws on them. Kind of Popeye forearms there. Then he has these extra, I don't know if these are arms or just claws or horns coming out of his front. Hard looking shell here in the front. And then his little legs with some nice little detailed toes and wrinkles at his knees, which are nice. His articulation, he does have swivels at his arms, but they are hindered by these front little pieces here. So you can move them out of the way as you move the hand going up, but going down, they kind of get stuck on them. So just be careful not to rip these pieces off while trying to move the arms. And Hardship is a little harder to balance. With these big bulky forearms, he does tend to tilt forward or back if you don't position him just right. And I feel like this is a fitting addition to the set, seeing that NECA revealed at Comic-Con that they will be doing this figure in the normal line, which has me very excited. For a size comparison, here is Trespasser and Romeo Blue next to their normal line comparative, and yeah, I'm using Axehead instead of Trespasser, so sue me. But you can see these are very, very small compared to the other pieces, but they're not meant to be in scale with anything. They're just toys. They're really more meant to be in scale with me, a human, than these action figures. So they work at the size they're at. So overall, I really like these figures, and I am going to recommend them. However, I can see a lot of people not going for these pieces. They're definitely very different from a lot of things NECA does if you consider them action figures. There's not much detail here in the paint or the sculpt. They're just simple and cute, but it reminds me of something more that we'd get from Funko than NECA. But I look at them as prop replicas. I look at them as being a piece out of the Pacific Rim universe I could put on my shelf that looks just like something that was in the movie, in the actual scale it was in the movie. And that makes me happy, and I enjoy it on that basis alone. So I said with the last exclusive review of the Endoglow Terminator that figure might not be for everybody. This figure I think is probably for even less people, but if you're like me, I think you're gonna enjoy it. Make sure you check me out on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also follow me on Facebook, link below. And until next time, this has been the Outside the Box Reviews, and there's more Comic-Con exclusives to come.